Exclusive contract with Feilu Novel Network Novel. Zongwu. Wudang Junior Uncle, Marries Li Hanyi Travel through the world of comprehensive martial arts, become Ye Xuan, the youngest disciple of Zhang Sanfeng, and bind to the shocked.A system. As long as you sign in, you can become stronger. On special days, rewards can be several times more generous. Ding, successfully signed in and received 10,000 swords to return to the sect. Ding, successful shocked.A, obtained Sword Heart Tongming. Ding, successful shocked.A, obtained Xuanwu True Skill. 18 years after signing in Wudang, Ye Xuan has become a great master. And Ye Xuan encountered Li Hanyi, who was being chased by Anhe, and even fell victim to Meidu Yi. After detoxifying, Li Hanyi was shocked. A great master and a strong person. A holy hand in medical ethics. Qin, chess, calligraphy and painting, medical divination, astrology, and disguise techniques. Is there anything else that my husband doesn't know? Until this day, all the gates were dispatched to Wudang. Zhang Cuishan, hand over Xie Xun's whereabouts. Ye Xuan extended his palm and looked at the crowd. Those who violate Wudang will be killed without mercy. Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. Chapter 1. Wudang Junior Uncle, Li Hanyi with poisonous charm in his body. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Wudang Junior Uncle, Li Hanyi with poisonous charm in his body. Kyushu continent. This is a world where major dynasties stand tall and countless sects and clans compete. There are Tang, Song, Yuan, and Ming states coexisting, as well as small states such as Western Xia, Dali, and Tubo that have survived. In the martial arts world, many sects such as Shaolin, Wudang, Yihua Palace, and Sihang Jingjai stand tall. There are countless demonic sects of all kinds, both overt and covert, vying for power in the world. Wudang Back Mountain. An extremely secluded place. At this moment, there is a young man wearing white clothes sitting cross-legged. His eyes are like stars, his lips are red and his teeth are white, and his face is handsome. Between the expressions, there is an indescribable and carefree expression. The dim yellow sunlight of the setting sun shone on him, reflecting him like a banished immortal walking out of a painting. After a moment, Ye Xuan slowly opened his eyes. There was a sharpness like a sword in his eyes, flashing past. Wearing clothes without wind, it moves automatically, hunting and dancing. Shoo! Ye Xuan let out a breath. White energy condenses, like sword energy, straight into the stone. On the rock in front of me, a shallow pit was unexpectedly washed out by this breath of white air. Exhale and turn into an arrow. In this world, the realm of martial arts is divided into acquired, innate, master, great master, supreme master, heavenly and human, and land immortals. Among them, there are 9 congenital variations. As for those above the level of grandmaster, they are only divided into middle school and the realm of perfection. In today's martial arts world, one can establish a sect in the innate realm, let alone the master realm. Ye Xuan has been in this world for 18 years. His current identity is that of Zhang Sanfeng, the youngest disciple of Wudang, who is a legendary figure in the martial arts world. 18 years ago, when he was just reborn, Ye Xuan was just an abandoned baby by the roadside. Just as Zhang Sanfeng passed by, he took it back to Wudang and received it under his command. At the moment of rebirth, Ye Xuan awakened the shocked.A system. Sign in to receive rewards. During special holidays, rewards will be exceptionally generous. 18 years after signing in at Wudang, Ye Xuan has now reached the cultivation level of the Grand Master Zhongjing. However, over the years, Ye Xuan has never made a move in front of anyone, so even a few senior brothers do not know his true strength now. Especially a few years ago, after Ye Xuan cured his third brother Yu Dian's paralyzed injury, several senior brothers believed that he should specialize in medical skills and had never had any demands on him in martial arts. As for Master Zhang Sanfeng, he has been in seclusion for 10 years so far, so naturally he is not clear about his current state. Ye Xuan looked at the flowing clouds in the sky, but silently pondered in his heart. In another month, it will be Master's 100th birthday. The fifth brother who has been stranded on Ice and Fire Island should also be coming back soon. Since their rebirth, the 7 senior brothers have been extremely affectionate towards this young junior brother. Zhang Cuishan, the fifth brother, is no exception. Thinking of this, Ye Xuan opened his own panel and glanced at it. Host. Ye Xuan Cultivation. Middle stage of the Master's Realm Skills. Wudang 9 Yang Skill, Pure Yang Wuji Skill, Ladder Cloud Leap, Divine Gate 13 Swords, Divine Illumination Skill, 10,000 Swords Returning to the Sect, 3 points of Divine Fingers, Step Wind Foot Shadow, Xuanwu True Skill Physical Condition. Invincible to all poisons, with a clear Sword Heart Skills. Medical Skills, Perfect, Poison Skills, Perfect, Face Changing Skills, Perfect, Qin Skills, Perfect, Chess Skills, Perfect, Weapon. Tianwen Sword Items. Blood Bodhi, Tianshan Snow Lotus, 9 Flower Jade Dew Pill, De Huan Dan, Xiao Huan Dan. Ye Xuan withdrew his gaze. 10 years ago, he knew that his fifth brother Zhang Cuishan would not have any worries about his life and would also encounter the one he loved for a lifetime, so he did not interfere. But now, he never allows anyone to be reckless on Wudang Mountain. At this moment, the faint sound of clothes and clothing sweeping through the air could be heard in his ear. Ye Xuan couldn't help but frown slightly, feeling a bit puzzled in his heart. Everyone in the entire Wudang sect knows that this is his place of meditation, and even a few senior brothers never come to disturb him. Now, who is this person who came from the air? Ye Xuan turned his head and saw a person dressed in white and wearing a mask, rushing towards him at full speed. Li Hanyi's true qi erupted inside his body, swiftly sweeping through the air. Under the cold mask, she frowned tightly. I didn't expect that the people of the Dark River would be so shameless. During the battle, she accidentally got poisoned by the yin-yang Hehuan powder. At this moment, the people in the hidden river are still behind, chasing closely. Li Hanyi's silver teeth bite silently. Even if she dies, she will never fall into the hands of the people in the Dark River. As the true qi accelerated, Li Hanyi gradually felt something was wrong. There is a seemingly inexplicable heat that gradually spreads and spreads throughout the body with the movement of true qi. Li Hanyi tightly held the sword in his hand, hoping to rely on the frost and cold power in the sword to resist the strange heat inside his body. She holds a long sword in her hand, named Iron Horse Ice River. The sword contains a frost-cold aura, which was obtained by Li Hanyi from 100 years of snow-capped mountains. However, what made Li Hanyi despair was that even the frost and cold energy in the Iron Horse and Ice River seemed unable to resist the strange heat inside her body. She noticed that the heat was slowly and firmly rushing towards her brain. Li Hanyi knew that when the heat rushed into her mind, she would be completely controlled by this yin-yang Hehuan powder. Only by combining yin and yang within a moment can toxicity be removed. Otherwise, the whole body's blood will boil and die. A hint of determination flashed in Li Hanyi's eyes. If in a moment, there is still no way out, then the only way is to commit suicide. She will never allow herself to be controlled by drugs and fall into the hands of those in the Dark River. At this moment, she looked at the main hall on the mountain not far away and her heart moved. This is Wudang Mountain. On Wudang Mountain, Zhang Sanfeng is known as the closest person to a land god in the martial arts world. Even in the underworld, Zhang Sanfeng of Wudang must have harbored fear. Go towards the direction where Wudang sect is located, perhaps you can shake off the people behind you in the hidden river. With this thought in mind, Li Hanyi didn't hesitate, and his true energy rolled up under his feet, accelerating his speed a bit. The trees on his side quickly retreated backwards. Li Hanyi's body was filled with hot air, and when he wore white clothes, he was already soaked in sweat. In my mind, there was also a hint of drowsiness. At this moment, in Li Hanyi's field of vision, a young man in white appeared. The young man's eyes were like stars, his face was handsome, and his whole body exuded a carefree and ethereal aura. Standing with his back to the sunset, he looks like a young exiled immortal. Boom! After seeing this handsome young man, the only trace of rationality in Li Hanyi's mind could no longer be held back. She was shaped like an electric shock and rushed straight towards the boy. At the end of his ear, the gentle voice of the young man rang out. Yin Yang Huan scattered. The seductive poison has entered my brain, and I can only. Chapter 2. Li Hanyi Detoxifies, Zhang Zhenren closes the door. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 2. Li Hanyi Detoxifies, and Zhang Zhenren closes the door as a disciple. The white figure, carrying a fragrant breeze, rushed into Ye Xuan's arms. Ye Xuan originally wanted to avoid it, but upon seeing her slender figure and iconic white mask, he was slightly stunned. Li Hanyi. How could she appear on Wudang Mountain? With Ye Xuan's advanced medical skills, it was immediately apparent that she had been poisoned by the Yin Yang Huan powder. If he is poisoned soon, with his medical skills, he can also be treated with medication. But now, the seductive poison has entered the brain, and there is no other way besides the combination of Yin and Yang. Li Hanyi is still in a state of drowsiness at this moment, with blood and energy surging all over her body, and heat steaming. Only when approaching Ye Xuan did the heat on his body slightly ease. So unconsciously, her body desperately leaned against Ye Xuan. Ye Xuan reached out and lifted Li Hanyi's mask, feeling slightly dazed. A beautiful and unparalleled face rushed into his eyes. The pale golden sunset fell on her face, making it difficult to distinguish whether it was the afterglow of the sunset or the natural radiance on her face. At this moment, Li Hanyi's eyelids were half open and half closed, and his long eyelashes trembled slightly above his clear eyes. Unconsciously, my mouth was murmuring something in a low voice. In his arms, Li Hanyi's body temperature was getting higher and higher. Without hesitation, Ye Xuan released his restraint. At this moment, the situation was urgent and saving someone was crucial. Fortunately, this place is already his usual place of meditation. In this Wudang sect, it is like a forbidden area. No matter how many senior brothers or nephews, without his invitation, they would never intrude rashly. When detoxifying with all one's heart, time flies by quickly. The setting sun sets in the west, and the bright moon rises in the east. When the seductive poison in Li Hanyi's body was completely eliminated, both of them were overwhelmed by a wave of fatigue and embraced each other to sleep. After an unknown amount of time, Li Hanyi woke up again. Looking at the handsome young man beside him, his clear eyes were filled with both embarrassment and anger. Almost instinctively, her snow-white hands leaned towards the abandoned Iron Horse Ice River. But soon, the scenes from the past came to her mind. Although controlled by Yin Yang Huan San, she is the one who takes the initiative. Although she is a great master, she is not an unreasonable person. Looking at Ye Xuan's handsome face, Li Hanyi suddenly didn't know how to face it. Seeing that Ye Xuan seemed to be still asleep, she got up and tidied up her clothes, her movements gentle, afraid of making any noise. Finally, putting the mask back on top of his face, Li Hanyi's surging emotions were barely calmed down. She turned around and was about to leave, but then paused slightly and waved her sleeve lightly. The clothes scattered by Ye Xuan gently floated up and slowly covered his body. Then, Li Hanyi saw Ye Xuan open his eyes. Li Hanyi couldn't help but stiffen slightly, holding the palm of Iron Horse and Ice River, appearing somewhat pale due to excessive force. Ye Xuan's face showed no signs of embarrassment and he calmly put on his shirt, smiling and saying, "Are you ready to leave now?" He naturally knows Li Hanyi, but is this considered a golden brick? Li Hanyi, wearing a mask, controlled himself and made a heavy disguising voice, saying, "The kindness of saving lives today will be repaid tomorrow." Ye Xuan chuckled and said, "You don't know my name or my identity. Who are you going to seek revenge from in the future?" At this moment, Li Hanyi's heart was in turmoil. Upon hearing this, he was momentarily speechless and said, "Then you tell me, I will remember." Ye Xuan stood up, shook the dust off his body, and smiled, saying, "You talk to me in your original voice, and I'll tell you." Li Hanyi's eyes showed a hint of shyness and anger, almost about to draw his sword. Finally, he restrained himself and just scolded, "Young Taoist, you want to die." Under embarrassment and anger, he blurted out his words without any intention of concealing his voice. Although it was a rebuke, her voice was already clear and gentle, sounding as beautiful as mountains and rivers falling rocks. Ye Xuan smiled and said, "My name is Ye Xuan. Although I am in Wudang Mountain, I am just a layman's disciple and not a Taoist. It is not related to getting married and having children in the future." Under the mask, Li Hanyi blushed slightly and deliberately said in a cold tone, "Snow Moon City, Li Hanyi." After speaking, she wanted to turn around and leave again. "I will repay the kindness of saving my life. If you have any requests, you can also come to Snow Moon City to find me in the future." Ye Xuan smiled slightly and said, "Follow me back to Wudang first." Li Hanyi was slightly taken aback. Ye Xuan continued, "Hanyi, you should be being chased, right? The yin-yang He-Huan powder in your body has been dispelled now. However, most of your true qi has also been depleted. Now descending the mountain is no different from sheep entering the tiger's mouth. Cultivate in Wudang for a while, wait until all your cultivation is restored, and then go down the mountain without delay." Li Hanyi looked at Ye Xuan with a hint of surprise in his eyes. In terms of age, Ye Xuan should be the third-generation disciple of Wudang. I didn't expect a third-generation disciple to have such a vision. It seems that Wudang's current status in the martial arts world is not solely attributed to Zhang Zhenren alone. Li Hanyi also had some hesitation in her heart. As Ye Xuan said, going down the mountain at this moment is indeed an unwise move. Li Hanyi was still hesitating, but Ye Xuan had already pulled her palm and smiled, "Don't worry, in Wudang, I guarantee you nothing." Ye Xuan pulled Li Hanyi and walked in the hall of Wudang. On the way, the Wudang disciples they met all respectfully saluted and said, "Hello, junior martial uncle." Ye Xuan also nodded and smiled to signal. Although these disciples were quite curious about Li Hanyi wearing a mask. But this person was personally brought by the junior martial uncle, so they naturally dare not ask more questions. In the hearts of these disciples of Wudang, although the young master's expertise is not in martial arts, his achievements in medical skills alone are already worthy of their respect. After all, the injuries of the third martial uncle Yu Daiyan were so severe that even Zhang Sanfeng, the legendary ancestor of martial arts, was helpless. It is said that Shizu was originally isolated to find a way to cure third master. And this little martial uncle, just by self-learning medical skills, completely cured the third martial uncle. If it weren't for this, I'm afraid third senior uncle would still be stuck in a sickbed. Seeing the Wudang disciples I met along the way, I showed great respect to Ye Xuan. Li Hanyi couldn't help but feel puzzled in her heart. Can't help but ask, do you seem to have a high status in Wudang? Although Wudang disciples come in small uncles, Li Hanyi doesn't know whether these disciples are of the third or fourth generation. Ye Xuan smiled slightly and said, "Among the disciples of my master, I rank 8th. Li Hanyi was slightly taken aback, then widened his eyes and exclaimed in surprise, "Are you the disciple of Zhang Zhenren who closed the door?" Chapter 3. Zhang Sanfeng leads the pass, and Xian Heir unexpectedly even has a wife. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 3. Zhang Sanfeng leads the pass, and Xian Heir surprisingly has a wife. Are you Zhang Zhenren's closed-door disciple? Li Hanyi couldn't help but be shocked at the words. Although Zhang Zhenren from Wudang has been inactive in the martial arts world for many years, his status as a martial arts mythological figure has not changed at all. Nowadays, in the martial arts world, if anyone can become a land immortal, even shatter the void and fly away, then that person must be Zhang Zhenren without a doubt. This is almost a common understanding among people in the martial arts world. As for Zhang Zhenren's disciples, they are known to the world as the 7 heroes of Wudang. There are also rumors in the martial arts world that after the 7 heroes of Wudang, Zhang Zhenren once accepted a closed-door disciple. However, this closed-door disciple has never appeared in the martial arts world. Therefore, many people hold a skeptical attitude towards the authenticity of this news. Now that Ye Xuan claimed to be ranked 8th, Li Hanyi immediately thought of the mysterious disciple who closed the door. Ye Xuan smiled slightly and was about to speak. But I heard a soft roar in the mountains. The howling sound is like a wave, continuous and soaring into the clouds. Ye Xuan was momentarily taken aback, and then a happy expression appeared in his eyes. He smiled and said, "Master has left the level." Li Hanyi couldn't help but be taken aback at the words. It is rumored that Zhang Zhenren has been in seclusion for more than 10 years. I didn't expect that as soon as she got pregnant, she encountered a grand event of Zhang Zhenren leaving the stage. In a moment. In Wudang Mountain. At this moment, the voices of disciples running and cheering are everywhere. Xie Xun has passed. Xie Xun has passed. In each hall, 6 people, including Song Yuanxiao and Yu Lianzhou, also showed signs of joy. Hurry up and welcome Master out of the level. Send someone to notify junior brother. Several senior brothers rushed towards Zhang Sanfeng's closed stone chamber together. In Wudang Mountain, there are many disciples, but Zhang Sanfeng has always liked cleanliness and disliked ostentation. Therefore, only a few senior brothers can go to the closed stone chamber to welcome them. To the surprise of Song Yuanxiao and his companions, when the 5 of them arrived, their junior brother was already waiting outside the stone chamber. Beside him stood a swordsman in white. Although the swordsman in white was wearing a mask, it was evident from his figure that he was a woman. From their standing positions, it seems that the junior brother is quite close to this woman. Song Yuanxiao's eyes lit up and he asked, "Junior brother, who is this?" Before Ye Xuan could answer, the several people in front of him suddenly opened the sect with a loud bang. Zhang Sanfeng closed his door, originally hoping to learn a martial arts that could cure his 3rd disciple Yu Daiyan. After only 10 years of seclusion, I couldn't find a cure, but instead I realized another Tai Chi divine skill. On this day, I happened to perfect my understanding of this Tai Chi divine skill. Suddenly, a sudden impulse struck in my heart. Remembering that I have been 10 years and have never seen a disciple before. The 3rd disciple Yu Daiyan is disabled, and the 5th disciple Zhang Cuishan is missing. I don't know what's happening now. Thinking of his young disciple Ye Xuan, Zhang Sanfeng felt even more ashamed in his heart. When I was in seclusion, the little disciple was still a child. Overall, he didn't even teach anything seriously. I don't know what I have grown into now, but my cultivation has surpassed the day after tomorrow. Thinking of this, Zhang Sanfeng was moved to leave the pass. Immediately, a light whistle was emitted to inform the disciples. Subsequently, Zhang Sanfeng's clothes shook slightly, and 2 stone doors opened with a loud bang. As soon as the stone gate opened, Zhang Sanfeng saw the young Ye Xuan at first glance. Ye Xuan was raised by him alone before the age of 8. Therefore, although Ye Xuan has grown up and his appearance has greatly changed, he still recognizes it at a glance. Looking at Ye Xuan, who was already a handsome young man, Zhang Sanfeng's heart was stirred and he exclaimed with joy, "Xuan heir, you have grown so big." Ye Xuan, like when he was a child, stepped forward and hugged his master, laughing and saying, "Master, you really want to kill Xuan heir." On the side. The other senior brothers stood on the side with a smile on their faces. After all, the junior apprentice was raised by his master alone. Therefore, among the several senior brothers, the younger junior brother is also the closest to the master. They show more respect towards their master, unlike younger martial brothers who have a father-son relationship with their master. Li Hanyi looked at the old Taoist in front of him, feeling extremely surprised. What Zhang Sanfeng was wearing was just an extremely simple Taoist robe, even appearing old and pale. But this did not diminish Zhang Sanfeng's transcendent temperament at all. Zhang Sanfeng, who has been 100 years old, has an extremely smooth face without any wrinkles. The silver-like beard and hair not only do not make people feel any old-fashioned, but also add a sense of immortality to him. At this moment, Zhang Sanfeng gently patted Ye Xuan's back, and there were even tears in his eyes. Li Hanyi's heart couldn't help but be touched. When Zhang Zhenren was still wandering in the martial arts world, he was already in the realm of half a step heaven and man, and now he doesn't know what kind of realm he has reached. In the martial arts world, Zhang Zhenren is an unattainable myth. But in front of Ye Xuan, Zhang Zhenren was like a kind father. After Zhang Sanfeng and Ye Xuan parted ways, Song Yuanxiao and the other 5 talents laughed together and said, "I respectfully welcome Master out of the pass." Zhang Sanfeng smiled and said, "Okay. Okay. Okay." At the next moment, Zhang Sanfeng's smile suddenly froze and his gaze fell straight on his third disciple Yu Daiyan. Looking at the 3 disciples standing together with other disciples, Zhang Sanfeng rubbed his own eyes. With his current state of emptiness, it is evident that he has also made such a childlike move, which is shocking to his heart. Zhang Sanfeng couldn't help but tremble and say, "Daiyan, your body." 5 disciples couldn't help but laugh in unison and say, "Master, my third brother's body has already recovered." Zhang Sanfeng, who had been in seclusion for 10 years, was originally looking for a way to heal his disciples. Now, seeing my disciples standing intact in front of me, I couldn't help but feel both surprised and delighted. Just as I was about to ask, I saw Li Hanyi standing on the side. He temporarily let go of his doubts and cleared his mind. With a hearty smile, he said, "I only care about a few disciples, but I have taken the guest lightly. Please forgive me." Li Hanyi did not expect that Zhang Sanfeng, who is a martial arts mythological figure, would be so approachable. After a slight hesitation, she took the initiative to take off her mask. Zhang Zhenren's posture, as a junior, would be too disrespectful if he had already worn a mask. Saluting Zhang Sanfeng, he said, "I, Li Hanyi from Shuya City, have met Zhang Zhenren." Li Hanyi's face, under the moonlight, appeared even more beautiful and unparalleled. Seeing her true appearance, Song Yuanxiao and the others couldn't help but be slightly stunned, their hearts trembling. There are so many people in the world. I don't know what kind of relationship it is with my junior brother. Zhang Sanfeng looked at Ye Xuan, then at Li Hanyi, and then stroked his beard to burst into laughter. "All right. All right. All right. Xuaner even has a wife. Today, the Taoist priest can be considered as a double blessing." Chapter 4. Zhang Sanfeng Surprise, His Apprentice. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 4 Zhang Sanfeng Surprise. Is his disciple not only a great master but also a divine doctor? All right. All right. All right. Xuaner even has a wife. Today, the Taoist priest can be considered as a double blessing. Upon hearing Zhang Sanfeng's words, Song Yuanxiao and others couldn't help but be taken aback, and then their hearts were shocked. Snow Moon City, Li Hanyi. They have also heard of this name. Although not very old, his martial arts cultivation is extremely high. It is said that it is now the peak of the great master. Among many rising stars in the martial arts world, he is also considered a genius-like figure. When did the two of them get to know each other? Junior brother, who spends his days meditating on Wudang Mountain. And they know that master never speaks recklessly. Since you can say such things, you must have seen something. Upon hearing this, Li Hanyi's face also turned red and he said, "A real person misunderstood. Our relationship is not what you thought. As she spoke, she gave Ye Xuan a glance, indicating that he was helping her out. Ye Xuan chuckled and said, "Master, you haven't reached that step yet. Don't worry." Upon hearing these words, everyone in Wudang couldn't help but show a sudden expression. If we haven't reached that point, does that mean we are developing in that direction? For a moment, everyone looked at Li Hanyi with a friendly expression in their eyes. Future siblings, are they also siblings? Li Hanyi glanced sideways at Ye Xuan and couldn't help but stomp his feet in anger. But in front of Zhang Sanfeng, she couldn't argue with this statement. Seeing her posture, Zhang Sanfeng couldn't help but smile with relief and said, "It's all good, little girl. If you're bullied in the future, the old Taoist will definitely make the decision for you." Based on his century-long experience, this girl and her young disciple may seem to maintain a distance, but their actions show a sense of inner closeness. Becoming the daughter-in-law of the young disciple is also a matter of time. Li Hanyi also pretended not to understand the profound meaning in Zhang Sanfeng's words and bowed slightly, saying, "Thank you, Mr. Zhang." Zhang Sanfeng nodded with a smile and then looked back at Yu Daiyan, asking, "Daiyan, which expert healed your injury? As a teacher, I also need to come to your door to express my gratitude." When he saw Yu Daiyan standing as usual, he wanted to figure it out. He was only afraid that Li Hanyi would feel neglected, so he just put aside the matter of the 3 disciples. But the disability of his 3 disciples, like the disappearance of his 5 disciples, has been a knot in his heart for the past decade. At this moment, seeing my disciple recover, my heart is filled with both joy and curiosity. After all, at that time, Yu Daiyan's injuries were so severe that he was almost powerless. Even he, with nearly 100 years of pure qi, can only retain the lives of his disciples. As for the disability injury, even he is powerless. Even he couldn't think of any divine doctor in the martial arts world who could treat this injury. If there was any hope, he would have gone to seek medical treatment long ago, and he wouldn't have been in seclusion for 10 years, hoping to comprehend a method of treatment. Zhang Sanfeng's emotions were a bit high and he asked, "But 10 years ago, what amazing miracle doctor appeared in the martial arts world?" On the side, Li Hanyi was also a little curious. "I couldn't help but start counting the medical experts in the martial arts world recently. The high level of medical skills that can solve illnesses that even Zhang Zhenren is helpless can be imagined. For people in the martial arts world, knowing the existence of such a divine doctor may give them an extra life in critical moments." Song Yuanxiao and the others looked at each other with a smile. They all looked at Ye Xuan and said with a smile, "Master, it's the little junior brother who cured the 3rd brother." Zhang Sanfeng's right hand was originally about to caress his beard, but now his chin hurt and he almost pulled off his silver beard. "Are you saying that Daiyan's injury was cured by Xuaner?" Zhang Sanfeng widened his eyes, and his extraordinary demeanor was completely gone. Song Yuanxiao and others nodded together and said, "Exactly." After receiving confirmation, Zhang Sanfeng couldn't help but take a breath of cold air. Li Hanyi was on the side, even more shocked. In the martial arts world, there is hardly any medical expert who became famous during his youth. Because medical skills are inherently a subject that requires experience and accumulation. But Ye Xuan, how old are you now? Can a high level of medical skills cure a disease that even Zhang Zhenren is helpless about? Even though Yu Daiyan personally said these words, Li Hanyi felt a bit unbelievable. Even Zhang Sanfeng, somewhat incredulous, couldn't help but ask, which famous doctor is the master who passed on Xuaner's medical skills? Even Song Yuanxiao and others mentioned it now, their words were full of amazement. "I have never been down Wudang Mountain in these years, junior brother. A body full of medical skills, all self-taught. If there is a master, then it is those medical books on our mountain." This statement even stirred up a huge wave in the hearts of Zhang Sanfeng and Li Hanyi. Almost all famous doctors in the world have their own traditions. A famous teacher produces a great disciple. At Ye Xuan's current age, even with the guidance of a renowned teacher, possessing such medical skills can definitely be considered as a genius without a single one. But now, how many people actually say that Ye Xuan's medical skills are all self-taught? With Zhang Sanfeng's qi-nourishing skills, everyone feels unbelievable. Not to mention Li Hanyi. As long as you have the intention, medical books are not really rare. Huangdi Neijing. Su Wen. There are by no means few people in the world who can be seen. But with self-taught study, even if you want to become a decent doctor, the difficulty is incredibly high. Not to mention becoming a medical expert like Ye Xuan, who is difficult for doctors in the world to reach. And a child, relying solely on self-taught study, grew up to such an extent. No matter how talented one is, it will definitely require great effort and persistence. And all of this, it can be imagined, is just to be able to cure his third senior brother's disability. Zhang Sanfeng's eyes were already filled with tears, as if he had seen the scene of Ye Xuan, who looked like a child, holding medical skills and studying by candle at night, struggling to comprehend. Li Hanyi also felt greatly touched and couldn't help but feel moved by their brotherly love and Ye Xuan's determination. Zhang Sanfeng couldn't help but sigh and say, "Good child, these years have really been tough for you." Ye Xuan smiled and said, "Master, don't think too much. I have been very happy these years." Li Hanyi saw his indifferent appearance, and there was a hint of softness in his eyes that she had not even noticed. At this moment, Zhang Sanfeng's expression of emotion suddenly froze on his face. When he spoke again, his voice even trembled slightly. "Xuaner, your cultivation. P.S. Is there anyone else reading this book? If there are any, I will be more and more. Kneeling down, I beg for the support of all readers. Use your little finger to give some flowers and evaluation tickets. These things are all free, refreshing every day. If you don't give them away, they will be gone. If you feel that the book written by the author is still to your liking, please kindly ask the readers to use their fingers to give it a try. Even a flower, a review ticket is a great encouragement to the author." Chapter 5. Grand Master Ye Xuan, The Art of Divination and Calculation, 5. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 5. Grandmaster Ye Xuan, The Art of Divination, must return before fifth brother's birthday. Just now after leaving the level, a series of good news stirred Zhang Sanfeng's mind and left him with no time to worry. But now that he noticed Ye Xuan's realm, Zhang Sanfeng once again froze. "Xuaner, your cultivation. Grand Master." Upon hearing these words, both the 7 heroes of Wudang and Li Hanyi couldn't help but show a look of terror in their eyes. Large-scale teacher environment. How could this be possible? You should know that as senior brother Ye Xuan, the 7 warriors of Wudang are now in the realm of great masters. And Li Hanyi, the pinnacle of his master, is already one of the few talented figures in the world among his peers. Now, Zhang Sanfeng says that Ye Xuan is already a great master. Especially the 7 heroes of Wudang, if this matter had not been personally spoken by their master, they would never have believed it. Over the years, Ye Xuan has never shown any martial arts skills in front of them. Even in their impression, Ye Xuan had never practiced seriously. Although Wudang is a martial arts school. After all, he is his own junior brother, but due to Ye Xuan's amazing medical talent, he has never been supervised in martial arts. He specially designated an area on the back mountain for him, and everyone thought it was the place where Ye Xuan was studying medical skills. In the eyes of the 7 heroes of Wudang, even if I know martial arts, I should only stay at a stage that is strong enough to keep fit. But now, my master actually says he is already a great master. Li Hanyi was even more shocked. A person's energy should be limited. In her understanding, it was a miracle that Ye Xuan could become a medical expert at this age. In this situation, how can one have extra energy to diligently cultivate martial arts? Not to mention entering the realm of great masters. Li Hanyi admits that her martial arts talent is already top-notch. But even with her talent, after years of hard work and perseverance, she is now the pinnacle of her master. Still blocked outside the door of the great master. The distance between a great master and a great master may be something that some people cannot break through in their lifetime. And Ye Xuan, while dedicating himself to medicine, was able to cultivate to the level of a great master at this age. What kind of talent is needed to achieve such a thing? Can there really be such a wicked person in the world? Although I know that Zhang Sanfeng, as a martial arts mythological figure, would never be mistaken. But for a moment, Li Hanyi still found it difficult to accept. Ye Xuan did not conceal this and smiled, saying, I also had some insights not long ago. It was only then that I managed to break through and become a great master. Upon hearing these words, Zhang Sanfeng couldn't help but feel relieved and burst into laughter. Wudang sect, there are successors. Even though he is now revered as a mythological figure in the martial arts world, at the age of 18, he did not have the cultivation level of a young disciple he has today. This is enough to indicate that the talent and aptitude of the young disciple may even be higher than him. Now that the disciples are still young, their future achievements are bound to be limitless. Prior to this, among the several disciples, the one with the best intelligence and aptitude was the fifth disciple Zhang Cuishan. Among the disciples, only Cuishan may be able to inherit his legacy. So since Zhang Cuishan went missing 10 years ago, while Zhang Sanfeng was worried, he also worried about the future of Wudang. But now, seeing Ye Xuan's realm, he has no worries about Wudang anymore. Even with his century-long experience in the martial arts world, it is difficult to find someone whose talent can compare to this young disciple. At this moment, Song Yuanxiao smiled and said, Master's birthday is already in sight. Master, it's really better to leave the stage today. In addition, the younger martial brother is already a great master, and Miss Li has gone up the mountain as a guest, which can be considered as 3 blessings upon the door. Therefore, this birthday banquet cannot be as casual as usual, it needs to be well organized. In the eyes of everyone, Li Hanyi was already Ye Xuan's future daughter.In. Law, so his words and expressions were also quite polite and approachable. Zhang Sanfeng has always disliked being ostentatious. If it were up to him, the master and disciple could have a meal together. But he also knows the filial piety of several disciples, there must be a lively atmosphere before they can feel at ease. This time, upon leaving the border, I saw that Dai Yan had recovered from his injuries and Xian Er had achieved the realm of a great master. Future daughter.In. Law Li Hanyi, regardless of her cultivation or appearance, is top-notch. On his 100th birthday, Zhang Sanfeng naturally felt both gratification and joy in his heart. Just thinking of his fifth disciple Cuishan, he couldn't help but sigh and say, if your fifth brother is still here, then I really have no regrets as a teacher. Ye Xuan smiled and said, Master, rest assured. I assure you that on Master's birthday this year, Brother Wu will definitely come back. Song Yuanxiao and several others also responded, my fifth brother, regardless of his intelligence and martial arts, is above us. No matter what difficulties you encounter, you can always get through them. What junior brother said is that perhaps this year's birthday, fifth brother will come back. Over the past decade, Wudang has never stopped searching for Zhang Cuishan. But there was always nothing to be gained. Although unwilling to admit it, they all felt deep down that fifth brother was more or less unlucky. But in front of my master, I can only say some words of comfort. Zhang Sanfeng just smiled and naturally knew that it was just a word of comfort from his disciple. Ye Xuan saw that his master was still feeling a bit down, so he said, Master, I'm not comforting. The disciple divined a divination for Brother Wu, and the day of his return to the mountain is approaching. At the latest, on Master's birthday, Brother Wu will return to the mountain. Seeing Ye Xuan speaking so confidently, Zhang Sanfeng couldn't help but be curious and ask, Xian Er, do you have any experience in divination? In the martial arts world, there are indeed renowned fortune tellers and experts known for their divination skills. However, this divination technique is far more obscure and difficult to understand than medical techniques. Only a few people, such as Yuan Tiangang, can make a name for themselves in the world. Zhang Sanfeng saw that his disciple was full of confidence, but he couldn't bear to be discouraged. He smiled and said, "Master, then wait for your fifth brother to return to the mountain with peace of mind." As he spoke, he became slightly alert in his heart. Xian'er is capable of simultaneously cultivating martial arts and medical skills, with a natural talent of intelligence, which is unparalleled in the world. But now, with the addition of another divination technique, Zhang Sanfeng felt a bit worried. After all, no matter how intelligent a person is, their energy is always limited. There is no true all-rounder in the world. If one exhausts their entire life, being able to delve into a subject and practice to the extreme is already a remarkable achievement. But if he relies on his exceptional intelligence to venture into anything, it may not necessarily be a good thing. However, this is not a good opportunity at the moment. Zhang Sanfeng plans to find a suitable time to have a good conversation with his disciples. As a human teacher, such a beautiful jade should be carefully crafted and never careless. The seventh son of Wudang and Li Hanyi still regarded Ye Xuan's words as words of comfort. Just seeing Zhang Sanfeng regain his composure, Song Yuanxiao and others secretly praised in their hearts, "After all, it's still my junior brother who has a better way." Chapter 6. Healing Li Hanyi's Wounds, Xie Li Han. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Healing Li Hanyi, Xie Li Hanyi, Man's Mouth Scam Ghost. That night, after welcoming Zhang Sanfeng out of the pass, several people ordered Wudang disciples to set up a banquet. At the banquet, Zhang Sanfeng actually had the most conversations with Li Hanyi. The 7 heroes of Wudang were extremely close and enthusiastic towards her in their words. As a martial arts legend, there are very few qualified people in the martial arts world who can sit with Zhang Sanfeng. Although Li Hanyi is proud, he is also somewhat flattered. After the banquet, the master and apprentice each returned to their respective rooms. Li Hanyi is arranged for accommodation by Ye Xuan. As Ye Xuan entered a room, Li Hanyi looked at the environment and felt quite satisfied. Although the decoration in the room is simple, it is cleaned spotlessly. The bookshelf in the house, the ancient qin on the wall, and the flower arrangement on the windowsill add a touch of elegance to this room. When I was with everyone in Wudang before, I didn't feel it. Now that there are only 2 people in this room, Li Hanyi felt her heart start to inexplicably accelerate a bit. There was an ambiguous and awkward atmosphere spreading between the two. Li Hanyi bit her lip and forced herself to be calm, saying, "I need to rest now. You should go back to your room as well." Ye Xuan smiled and said, "This is my room. Where do you want me to go back?" Li Hanyi couldn't help but take 2 steps back, drawing his sword with a stern expression and muttering inwardly, "What do you mean?" Ye Xuan smiled and said, "Don't be nervous. I'll treat your injury and then I'll go out." Li Hanyi finally breathed a sigh of relief, his palm leaving the hilt, and he didn't know whether he was grateful or disappointed in his heart. During the process of being chased by the hidden river, in addition to the yin-yang Hehuan powder, she also suffered significant internal injuries. If she were to exercise and recuperate herself, it would take at least a month to recover. Moreover, it is very likely to leave behind the root cause of illness, which has a significant impact on future cultivation. At this moment, Ye Xuan whispered, "Let me take a look at the wound." Li Hanyi's face turned red and she stuttered as she spoke, "Look, what kind of injury are you looking at?" Ye Xuan laughed and said, "Looking, hearing, questioning, and cutting, with the word hope as the first priority. How can I judge the severity of an injury without showing it to me? Although I saw it before, I was busy detoxifying at that time, just a quick glance." Upon hearing these words, Li Hanyi's face turned even redder and he urgently said, "Don't mention anything from before. The internal injury she suffered was mainly due to being hit by a sinister palm power from the Dark River Master behind her. Previously, due to being hit by Yin Yang Huan San, he didn't care about it. At this moment, the Yin poison palm power has already penetrated from her muscles to her bones, and it is indeed extremely difficult to expel it alone. However, she did hesitate to expose her back in front of Ye Xuan. Ye Xuan said sternly, "Doctors are kind-hearted. In my eyes, any patient is the same. Don't think too much." Li Hanyi cut off and said, "Who said I was overthinking? It's just healing, what do I have to overthink?" After speaking, she turned around and turned her back to Ye Xuan. "Put on your clothes and slowly slide them off." Li Hanyi tried to remain calm, but his voice trembled a bit. You can only look at the wound." Ye Xuan sighed and said, "If you can't believe me, I'll cover my eyes and just use true qi to test." Li Hanyi blushed and whispered, "Well. Then cover your eyes." When Ye Xuan covered his eyes and reached out to examine the injury, Li Hanyi couldn't help but bite his silver teeth, his face burning like fire. She realized that she seemed to have been deceived. In this situation, Ye Xuan blindfolded and suffered even greater losses. But this was her own choice, and at this point, she couldn't say if she asked Ye Xuan to remove the eye mask. Ye Xuan chuckled inwardly, but in his words, he spoke in a gentlemanlike tone, saying, "My hand slipped, I'm sorry. Are you using palm techniques like cold ice soft palm? At this moment, the toxic energy has penetrated deep into the bone marrow. Based on your cultivation level, it may be difficult to dispel all of it. I'll give you an injection first, gather the yin and poison qi together, and then use the yang true qi to resolve it for you." After speaking, Ye Xuan groped again to apply needles to Li Hanyi. During the acupuncture process, in order to find the correct acupoint, Ye Xuan couldn't help but apologize several times. The two are already married. In Ye Xuan's heart, he regarded Li Hanyi as his wife. However, Li Hanyi is still a woman, and even if she agrees in her heart, she still appears somewhat reserved on the surface. Ye Xuan's injection was also intended to promote the relationship between the two. After a series of injections, Li Hanyi indeed felt that some of the yin toxic power that had penetrated her bone marrow had been pulled out. Despite feeling embarrassed and angry, Li Hanyi had to admit that Ye Xuan's medical skills were indeed remarkable. According to his method, after being cured, there should be no potential complications. After putting on his clothes again, Ye Xuan also took off the cloth strip that covered his eyes. Ye Xuan smiled apologetically and said, "The first time I applied the needle blindfolded, it was a bit unfamiliar. Next time, it should be better." Li Hanyi gave him a sideways glance and angrily said, "How long will it take to heal?" Ye Xuan smiled and said, "Inject for the first 7 days, and use your energy for the next 3 days. After 10 days, you will be able to fully recover." Li Hanyi bit her lip, feeling a hatred in her heart. She felt that what Ye Xuan said was mostly a lie, and with his medical skills, if he really wanted to treat the injury, it would definitely not take so long as 10 days. Most likely it was intentional procrastination, but she also had no evidence. Without waiting for Li Hanyi to drive him away, Ye Xuan stood up very consciously and smiled, "It's getting late. You should rest early, Hanyi." After speaking, he walked towards the door. Li Hanyi finally felt relieved. As he walked to the door, Ye Xuan suddenly turned back, his eyes clear and pure, and he smiled, "By the way, I'm right next door. If you feel like the blanket is thin, or if you're not used to sleeping, call me anytime." Lying in bed, Li Hanyi's heart was still as restless as a deer, unable to fall asleep for a long time. On the blanket, in addition to the smell of sunlight, there was also a scent that made her feel extremely familiar. Upon smelling that scent, Li Hanyi's mind naturally recalled scenes from the mountains before and after. In an instant, it made her feel red in the face and ears. What made Li Hanyi even more angry was when he was injected by Ye Xuan at night. Although she knew that Ye Xuan might have done it intentionally, she felt more ashamed than angry in her heart. No profit. Li Hanyi cursed himself inwardly. Feeling angry about his recent reaction, he couldn't help but kick several times in bed to vent his frustration. Duck. 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 At this point, there were several knocking sounds on the wall by the bedside. Ye Xuan's voice echoed through the partition, "Cold clothes. What's wrong? Are you not used to sleeping?" Li Hanyi stiffened all over, feeling a bit crazy in his heart. Habit. She pulled over the blanket and hit her head. Chapter 7. Will Xie Xun return from overseas? Junior brother. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Will Xie Xun return from overseas? Is junior brother's divination technique true? The second day. When Li Hanyi saw Ye Xuan, she couldn't help but think of last night's incident. She walked out of the room and stared straight, with a proud and coquettish demeanor, but her neck had quietly turned red. After breakfast, Ye Xuan was summoned by the 7 heroes of Wudang to discuss matters. During the discussion, several people did not carry Li Hanyi on their backs. Even Li Hanyi wanted to avoid, but was left behind by a few people. Although Zhang Sanfeng has passed the level, all affairs within the sect are still handled by his disciples. After discussing with the 7 heroes, they decided to expel their master, and the news of Wudang preparing for their centennial birthday spread. 10 years, whether it's long or short. Most likely, the reputation of Wudang is attributed to Zhang Sanfeng alone. Zhang Sanfeng has not appeared for 10 years, and Wudang's position in the martial arts world has been somewhat influenced. Even some people with ulterior motives are secretly spreading rumors that Zhang Sanfeng has passed away. Master, now that he has passed the pass and celebrated his centenary, it is perfect for him to have a grand feast with all the heroes. Firstly, it's to congratulate my master on his birthday, and secondly, it's to let those absurd rumors fall through without breaking through. Besides, it is to hold on to the hope of just in case. If Zhang Cuishan, the 5th brother, is still here, upon hearing this news, he will definitely try his best to come back. Usually, the affairs within the sect are decided by the 7 heroes through consultation. Today, several people deliberately left Ye Xuan behind. After discussing, several people also asked, "Junior brother, what do you think?" Since learning about my junior brother's true strength yesterday, everyone has experienced some strange changes in their hearts. Originally, they had a spoiled and laissez-faire attitude towards this young junior brother. Now, it is faintly noticeable that the master seems to have plans to hand over Wudang to the younger martial brother. However, they don't have much opinion on this. After all, my junior brother's talent is really much better than theirs. No matter who it is, they will make such a choice. However, when dealing with affairs within the faction, they also began to consciously or unintentionally value Ye Xuan's ideas. Ye Xuan smiled slightly and said, "Senior brother, it's up to you to decide. However, if there is anything going out to sea during this period, senior brother can leave it to me to handle. According to the hexagram, Brother Wu should be returning from overseas. Maybe I can go and pick him up then." Upon hearing these words, Li Hanyi and the 7 heroes of Wudang couldn't help but be stunned. "Why did you bring it up to the hexagram again?" Song Yuanxiao was puzzled and said, "Junior brother, isn't your divination just to comfort master?" Ye Xuan smiled bitterly and said, "Who said I'm comforting master?" "Senior brother, if you don't believe me, just wait. It's just that senior brothers need to prepare red envelopes, and we'll have an extra nephew." Song Yuanxiao and others couldn't help but be taken aback for a moment, feeling somewhat incredulous. They asked, "Junior brother, are you saying that 5th brother is already married and has children?" Ye Xuan nodded. Upon hearing these words, everyone naturally knew that Ye Xuan's divination was not a random fabrication. It's just that the accuracy of junior brother's divination technique remains to be verified. But considering my junior brother's expertise in medical skills and martial arts, the 7 heroes of Wudang all have some expectations. Since junior brother is so resolute in his words, he must have some confidence. Thinking that the 5th brother was not only alive, but also possibly married and had children, several people couldn't help but feel overjoyed. Li Hanyi couldn't help but ask, "Do you really understand the art of divination and calculation?" Ye Xuan smiled and said, "I understand a little." Li Hanyi couldn't help but widen her eyes. If what Ye Xuan said is true, then he doesn't have a slight understanding. Most fortune tellers in the world, their divination results are mostly elusive and half-hidden. Sometimes, when you say the calculation results, you sound like you don't understand. Even for the same sentence, the other party can explain it any way they want. Only those renowned fortune tellers can make relatively clear inferences. As Ye Xuan said, Zhang Cuishan will return from overseas and even get married and have children before Zhang Zhenren's centenary birthday. If such a clear result is true, then Ye Xuan's divination ability is simply terrifying. I'm afraid those famous fortune tellers are nothing more than that. On Zhang Zhenren's birthday, it has been less than a month. There will soon be a result of this matter. Second senior brother Yu Lianzhou pondered for a moment and said, "My 5th younger brother went missing with the Golden Lion King Xie Xun and the Yin girl from the Heavenly Eagle sect. Over the years, besides Wudang, there have been many sects and gangs in the martial arts world who are also searching for their whereabouts. Haisha, Giant Whale and other gangs have been searching at sea all along. If 5th brother really returned from overseas and travels with them, perhaps he can meet them." As she spoke, Yu Lianzhou stood up directly and said, "I would like to ask senior brother to pay more attention to the matter of master's birthday banquet. I will go down the mountain later to inquire about other sects' plans to go overseas in the near future." Ye Xuan remembered that when Zhang Cuishan returned from overseas, he was indeed encountered by the fleet sent to search the sea. If arranged in this way, then naturally you won't miss it. Although the 5th brother family is on their way back to the mountains, there will not be any danger. But Zhang Wuji will be captured by the 2 elders of Xianming and will suffer a lot. Nowadays, Ye Xuan is the 8th son of Wudang. Zhang Wuji is also his nephew, so he naturally wouldn't allow such a thing to happen. Furthermore, I have been staying in Wudang for the past 18 years. Now it is the realm of a great master, and he has mastered several unique skills. It's also time to go down the mountain and explore. But calculating the time, Brother Wu should have only returned a few days before master's birthday. He still has time to play with Li Hanyi in the martial arts world and also take care of the affairs of the hidden river. Perhaps even now, there are still people guarding the hidden river at the foot of Wudang Mountain. Ye Xuan had already regarded Li Hanyi as his wife. People in the hidden river, since they have injured Li Hanyi, they will have to pay a price. With such thoughts in mind, Ye Xuan said to Yu Lianzhou, "Second brother, after going down the mountain, I'll take a look around first. I won't go with you anymore. If the sailing date is confirmed, second brother will send a letter to inform you, and then I will meet with you again." When Song Yuanxiao and his companions heard that Ye Xuan also had the intention to go down the mountain, their first reaction was worry. After all, in the past 18 years, Ye Xuan has never been demoted to Wudang. The martial arts world is so dangerous, they are also afraid that Ye Xuan will suffer losses outside. In just the next moment, they woke up and all showed bitter smiles. Nowadays, my junior apprentice's cultivation is far above theirs. The realm of the great master is already a rare enemy in the martial arts world. He is also proficient in the art of medical divination and astrology, and ordinary ghost tricks, I'm afraid he can't do anything about it. Even future siblings are at the pinnacle of the grandmaster. Compared to the younger junior brother, the second senior brother Yu Lianzhou is probably more worthy of their concern. Chapter 8. Hidden dragons on the mountain in the abyss, flying dragons in the sky down the mountain. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Hidden dragons on the mountain in the abyss, flying dragons in the sky down the mountain. Overseas. The sunshine is brilliant, and the sea is deep blue. In the boundless sea, there is a somewhat rudimentary raft floating in it at this moment. The sea and sky are vast, and the distant ice and fire island is left with only a hazy gray shadow. Zhang Cuishan looked in the direction of ice and fire island and let out a long sigh. After making the raft, I waited for a long time before it was enough to bring them back to Middle-earth. However, his brother.In.Law Xie Xun insisted on not returning to Middle-earth. Zhang Cuishan knew that it was because his brother.In.Law had made too many enemies in the past, fearing to implicate their family. Just thinking about the future, on the ice and fire island, there was only one brother.In.Law left, and Zhang Cuishan felt a sense of compassion in his heart. After tidying up his mood, Zhang Cuishan sighed, I have been away from Middle-earth for 10 years, and I don't know how my master and a few brothers are doing. In Susu smiled and said, Zhang Zhenren is a martial arts myth. 10 years have passed, and I'm afraid his cultivation has reached an unimaginable level for ordinary people. As for the other 6 heroes of Wudang, they are now mostly important masters in the martial arts world. Zhang Cuishan thought that he would soon be able to reunite with his master brothers, which dispelled many feelings of separation. With a smile, he said, I'm not worried about the other senior brothers. I just don't know how little junior brother is doing now. He glanced at his son in his arms as he spoke. When he bid farewell to his brother.In.Law Xie Xun, Wu Ji cried until he was exhausted and had fallen into a deep sleep. Zhang Cuishan felt a little disappointed and said, when I left Wudang, my junior brother was not as big as Wu Ji. I should have grown into a handsome young man now, and I don't know if you still remember me, the 5th brother. In the midst of ice and fire island, the sun and moon are unknown. Although the two of them knew, it had been about 10 years. But now there is no concept in my heart about what month and day it is. At this moment, floating on the sea, there is still a sense of unreality that feels like a world apart. I don't know what will be waiting for their family when they return to Middle-earth this time. Amidst the complex emotions of the two, the bamboo raft slowly drifted towards the Middle-earth amidst the wind and currents. The news of Zhang Sanfeng's exit from the martial arts mythology quickly spread throughout the entire martial arts world. In an instant, there were countless flying pigeons flying towards various countries and regions near Wudang Mountain. Everywhere in the martial arts world, there are voices of discussion about this matter. Previously, there was a faint rumor in the martial arts world that Zhang Zhenren had passed away as an immortal. Now, this rumor can be considered self-defeating. 10 years ago, Wudang was on par with Shaolin. But it is precisely because of this rumor that Wudang's reputation has been invisibly weakened over the past decade. Now that Zhang Zhenren has passed the level, no one in the martial arts world dares to underestimate Wudang anymore. Wudang's momentum is gradually weakening, not just because of that rumor. Zhang Zhenren's cultivation is naturally extremely high, but his ability to teach his disciples is ordinary. Among the 7 warriors of Wudang, the highest cultivation is the Grandmaster realm. Once Zhang Zhenren is not around, Wudang can only be considered a moderate sect at most. When it comes to cultural heritage, Wudang and Shaolin are still far apart. It is said that among the 7 heroes, Zhang Cuishan has the highest talent. If Zhang Cuishan hadn't gone missing, perhaps he could still support Wudang's reputation now. Isn't Zhang Zhenren still having a disciple who closes the door? Ha! Then the disciples who close the door cannot be relied on. 10 years ago, he was just a child. Zhang Zhenren was in seclusion for 10 years, how could he have time to teach him? Most of the time, it is taught by the 7 heroes of Wudang, and how much achievement can it achieve? Daming Palace. Listening to Chao Jingquan's response, Zhu Hozhao pondered and said, Zhang Zhenren from Wudang is a person like a living immortal. His centenary is a big event. Every country will definitely send people to congratulate him. After all, Zhang Zhenren is a person of my great Ming dynasty. Uncle Huang, Please handle the urgent matters at hand during this period. You will personally go to Wudang Mountain on my behalf. It also shows that I value Zhang Zhenren greatly. Zhu ignored the salute and said in a deep voice, I lead the decree. Sect. Zhang Zhenren's centennial birthday. Zhang Cuishan went missing with Xie Xun's dog thief back then, murmured the exterminated abbess with a slight frown. For so many years, I have never seen anyone alive or a corpse dead. If he were still alive, his master would have lived 100 years and should have gone back, right? Thinking of Xie Xun and the dragon-slaying saber, there was a hint of malice in the eyes of Abbess Extinction. She had a lay brother who died at the hands of the Xie Xun bandits back then. She must avenge this grudge. As for the dragon-slaying knife, she is determined to win it. The supreme martial arts master, the sword slays dragons, commands the world, dare not disobey. Relying on the heavens without leaving, who can compete? The world only knows that the dragon-slaying saber contains secrets that can command the world, but only she knows what that secret is. This secret can only be obtained by possessing both the heavenly sword and the dragon-slaying saber at the same time. The heavenly sword is a divine sword of the Anhe sect. The dragon-slaying knife must never fall into the hands of others. The news of Zhang Zhenren's centennial birthday has caused a great uproar in various countries and the world. It can be foreseen that on the day of the birthday banquet, on Wudang Mountain, there will be a gathering of heroes. Some people want to see what kind of charm the world-renowned martial arts myths are. Some people, on the other hand, hold the same mindset as the extermination abbess, hoping to use this opportunity to inquire about the whereabouts of Zhang Cuishan and Xie Xun. On Wudang Mountain. After bidding farewell to his master and senior brothers, Ye Xuan and Li Hanyi embarked on the journey down the mountain together. This is the first time in 18 years that Ye Xuan has descended the mountain. He, who has always been calm and self-sufficient, can't help but feel a little emotional at this moment. Li Hanyi rarely saw his appearance, and couldn't help but tease, after all, it's the first time you've come down the mountain. If you feel scared or have any discomfort, just tell me. I promise I won't laugh at you. Ye Xuan immediately leaned over to Li Hanyi and casually hugged her arm, saying with a smile, I'm really a bit afraid of that. It's better for Hanyi to be careful. Why don't you hug me a little more? Li Hanyi's body stiffened, and he squeezed out 2 words from his mouth. Shameless. Nevertheless, she did not withdraw her hand. The figures of the two slowly walked down the mountain. The conversation between the two came from the wind. Aren't you good at divining? Did you divine for yourself the first time you went down the mountain? No need for divination. I am on the mountain, that's like a hidden dragon in the abyss. Going down the mountain means flying dragons in the sky. P.S. Find point data. Chapter 9. The Net of the Dark River, Iron Horse Ice River. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 9. The Net of the Dark River, Iron Horse Ice River. No problem, I will take action. Approaching the foot of the mountain, Ye Xuan raised his eyebrows and a playful smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. After a moment, Li Hanyi also showed a guarded expression, and his jade palm pressed against the hilt of the Iron Horse Ice River sword. Although we have reached the foot of the mountain, the roadside is still lush with trees. Shoo, shoo. 2 faint sounds of breaking through the air echoed from within the forest. In the next moment, 2 delicate and eerie flying flowers pierced through layers of leaves and flew towards the 2 of them. The stamen is bright red with 6 leaves. One flew towards Li Hanyi and the other towards Ye Xuan. Ye Xuan seemed to have not noticed the killing intent contained in this flying flower, still smiling with a restrained hand. Choke. In Li Hanyi's hand, the Iron Horse and Ice River are unsheathed. Sword light sweeping across. 2 flying flowers were instantly divided into 4. At the moment when the flying flowers were separated, the 12 leaves at the bottom of the flowers suddenly scattered. Like a storm, shoot at them. Sword light flashes again. There was a faint chill in the air. 12 green leaves instantly froze with a layer of white frost and then fell to the ground. Iron Horse Ice River is truly a world-renowned sword. Li Hanyi, we have been waiting for a long time. In the forest, 6 figures slowly emerged, one of whom was holding a 6-leaf flying flower in his hand. The person holding the flying flower is a woman in red. At this moment, when she saw Ye Xuan beside Li Hanyi, her eyes couldn't help but brighten slightly. With a smile, he said, "What a handsome young student. I don't know which one of the 7 heroes of Wudang is you, respected teacher." Ye Xuan smiled slightly and said indifferently, "You dare to commit violence on Wudang Mountain, you have a lot of courage." The woman in red smiled and said, "Before we went up the mountain, we had already given Zhang Zhenren enough face. Young master, there's still time to return to the mountain now. With such a beautiful appearance, I'm a bit reluctant to take action." The other 5 people looked at each other but did not object. Li Hanyi's predecessor had scattered yin and yang, but now he has not died, and he has another handsome young man by his side. The relationship between the two can be imagined. If it were a change of routine, this young man would undoubtedly die. But after all, this place is at the foot of Wudang. This young man is obviously a disciple of Wudang. The news of Wudang's Zhang Zhenren leaving the martial arts arena has been widely circulated in the martial arts world. It is not rational to kill a Wudang disciple at this time and place. If this young man is witty, it wouldn't be a big deal to spare his life. This was also the reason why they only ambushed at the foot of the mountain, knowing that Li Hanyi had gone to Wudang. After all, Zhang Zhenren is a current martial arts myth. The 7 heroes of Wudang are now renowned in the martial arts world. Even if it's a hidden river, one has to harbor fear. But Li Hanyi, as the target of their secret river this time, is an inevitable target to be killed. Ye Xuan smiled and said, "The 3 surnames of the Dark River are from the Su family of weapon techniques, the Xie family of internal martial arts, and the Mu family of medical secret techniques. Which family do you all come from?" Upon hearing these words, the faces of the 6 members of the Dark River suddenly changed. They are definitely one of the top assassin organizations in the martial arts world. But their names are definitely not on the killer list. This is not because they are not strong enough, but rather because they are too strong. Anyone who knows their names has been sent to the underworld. People in the martial arts world only know that there is an underground river in this world. Follow this river all the way and perhaps you will find this assassin organization called Underground River. As for where this hidden river is, few people in the martial arts world know. As for the composition of their personnel in the hidden river, it is even more of a secret. But the young and handsome young man in front of me seemed to have a deep understanding of them. Li Hanyi couldn't help but feel surprised. She knew that today was the first time Ye Xuan had walked down Wudang Mountain. But for the Underground River organization, he seems to know it better than himself. How powerful is Ye Xuan's divination technique? At this moment, the 6 members of the hidden river, with solemn expressions, had already stood apart and vaguely surrounded the 2. The woman in red sighed, her tone filled with regret. "I originally wanted to let you go, but unfortunately, you seem to know a lot." Li Hanyi sneered and said, "With just the 6 of you, I'm afraid it's not enough. Among these 6 people, the one with the highest cultivation is only in the middle stage of the Grandmaster." If not on the same day, the woman in red smiled faintly and said, "If it were 1.on.1, we wouldn't be your match. But we have 6 people, and in the hidden river, they can form a spider web. We call this website the Killer's Web." These 4 words are easy to say. The 6 members of the hidden river have already taken action together. Shuel Yang is like the light of a trained sword. The sharp and howling sword energy. Yin poisonous soft palm power. 6-leaf flying flower with hidden killing machine. There are countless secret paper butterflies, with heart-wrenching power, rushing towards the 2 of them. 6 people teamed up to weave a vicious web around Li Hanyi and Ye Xuan. covering the two of them. This is the ultimate net of the Dark River. Among the assassins chasing Li Hanyi, the 6 of them were not the strongest among them. The strongest person is Su Muyu, the head of the Su family. At this moment, Su Muyu is also near Wudang Mountain. But no one can be certain where Li Hanyi will come down the mountain. Therefore, the people in the hidden river, in groups of 6, guard various places below the mountain. As for Su Muyu, he is waiting in the surrounding area. Once a hidden river team discovers the trail of Li Hanyi, as long as they can hold it back for a moment, Su Muyu will kill them. And what they are pursuing at this moment is not just dragging down Li Hanyi. But rather, I want to directly remove Li Hanyi. If Li Hanyi is in full swing, even if they form a deadly net, their chances of winning are not high. But Li Hanyi's yin yang Hehuan scattered first, and the middle cold ice soft palm followed. Nowadays, the maximum amount of strength that can be unleashed is only 50.6% of its heyday. More importantly, she is not alone at this moment. There is also a young man from Wudang's sect beside her. From this young man, the 6 members of the Dark River did not notice the fluctuation of his true energy. Either the young man is still at the level of physical cultivation in the future, or his cultivation far surpasses theirs. But that is absolutely impossible. Don't say it's just an unnamed disciple within the Wudang sect. Even if the 7 heroes of Wudang arrive personally, it cannot be said that their cultivation will surpass them. This Wudang young man, after all, is also Li Hanyi's life-saving benefactor. Under the net of ultimate destruction, will Li Hanyi save or not save? If not saved, this young man will undoubtedly die. Help, then Li Hanyi will be powerless to care for herself. Perhaps not waiting for Su Muyu, the head of the Su family, to come. They can remove Li Hanyi. In the web of ultimate killing. The tip of the Iron Horse Ice River sword is shrouded in green light, and the mountain wind is howling. The sword energy is like flying frost for thousands of miles, invading. With this sword, on both sides of the road, dense trees and leaves instantly wither away. Countless green leaves, attracted by Li Hanyi's sword energy, instantly blocked the 6-person killing move. Under Wudang Mountain, leaves rain one after another. The faces of the 6 remained unchanged. I didn't expect that Li Hanyi, with his injured body, could still exert such power. Ye Xuan was just watching from the side. Although, if he takes action, he can easily solve the 6 people in front of him. However, only when facing a desperate situation can one overlook Kunlun. Ye Xuan knew that Li Hanyi had once cut through the clouds with a sword on Kunlun, allowing the millennium-old snow mountain to see sunlight. Her sword was obtained at that time. Iron Horse Ice River is the strongest in times of adversity. Only by relying on war can Li Hanyi become stronger and break through his own limits. If he really can't handle it, he will take action. Li Hanyi broke through Yi Yu with one sword, and then swung out another sword. At this point, it is already spring. Li Hanyi swung his sword, but it caused frost to fall. Chapter 10. Dream Butterfly Formation, can be easily broken. Qimen. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Dream Butterfly Formation, can be easily broken. Are you also proficient in Qimen Duanjia? Li Hanyi swung his sword and the frost covered the sky. Among the 6 people in the hidden river, the person who manipulated the secret technique of paper butterfly suddenly whispered, "Formation." The paper butterfly, which was originally broken by a sword, emitted a strange light again and slowly floated up again. The other 5 suddenly had unidentified smiles on their lips. In the past, Zhuang Zhou's dream was of Hu Dai, which was vivid and lifelike. It was a metaphor for being suitable for one's aspirations. I didn't know Zhou. Suddenly, I realized it, but it was a surprise for Zhou. I didn't know that Zhou's dream was of Hu Dai and that Hu Dai's dream was of Zhou and Hu Dai. If Zhou and Hu Dai were to be separated, then there must be a distinction. This is called materialization. The people in the hidden river recited softly, then retreated in unison. Dark River Secret Technique, Dream Butterfly Formation. The 6 people seemed to melt instantly and disappeared in front of the 2. Li Hanyi and Ye Xuan seemed to suddenly step into a dream. Everything in front of them seemed real, but also seemed just illusory. The opponents in front of him were nowhere to be seen, and Li Hanyi's sword naturally fell through. In an instant, the sound of the wind, trees, and even the breathing of those 6 people all disappeared. The dream butterfly formation has risen, and everything outside has been isolated. In the formation, only Li Hanyi and Ye Xuan remained. The next moment, the person who had set up the formation in the hidden river appeared again in front of the 2 of them. Li Hanyi from the Snow Moon City truly lives up to his reputation. It may be difficult for the 6 of us to take you down. Even so, we can only trap you first and wait for the Su family leader to come. Li Hanyi sneered and said, "The crooked way, I'll break it with one sword." Iron Horse Ice River instantly cuts out. The snowy sword light, carrying endless frost and cold, flew towards the person who arranged the formation. The person who set up the formation didn't even have time to react and was instantly split in half. But there was no blood spilled from his wound, and his body did not immediately fall. The split face even showed a dismal smile towards the 2 of them. Seeing such a strange scene, Li Hanyi couldn't help but shiver. Before their eyes, the body of the person finally disintegrated like a speck of dust, transforming into countless fluorescent white butterflies. In the next moment, the white butterflies gathered again and transformed into the figure of the arranger. Li Hanyi had a hint of surprise in her eyes and couldn't help but turn her head to look at Ye Xuan. Ye Xuan looked relaxed and smiled. "Cold clothes, believe in yourself. This dream butterfly formation can be broken with just one sword." The so-called dream butterfly formation seems eerie. In fact, it is just a technique of Qimen dun jia, which incorporates a bit of psychedelic magic. It can be used to scare people, but it doesn't have much killing power. As the person in the dark river said, the purpose was just to trap Li Hanyi. The person who sets up the formation is a disciple of the Mu family, who specializes in secret techniques in the dark river. I am extremely confident about my dream butterfly formation, and upon hearing Ye Xuan's words, I just sneered. If Li Hanyi spared no effort in cultivation, this dream butterfly formation would not trap her for long. It is impossible to say that one sword can break it. Unless she can tell at a glance where these waves of eyes are. But after chasing Li Hanyi for a long time, they knew Li Hanyi's strength better than anyone else. Li Hanyi's swordsmanship is truly unparalleled. However, little is known about other unconventional methods. In the previous pursuit process, the most successful ones in the hidden river were not frontal attacks, but rather some sinister and peculiar moves. In the formation, Ye Xuan pointed in one direction and said, "If you draw your sword here, you can easily break it." The disciple of the Mu family who set up the formation couldn't help but be shocked. Ye Xuan casually pointed and found out that it was actually these bursts of eyes, which is where he personally sits now. In panic, he was about to change his formation. But it's already late. Based on trust in Ye Xuan. At the moment Ye Xuan extended his finger, Li Hanyi had already drawn his sword. Frost energy crisscrossed and arrived in an instant. The scene before the 2 of them flickered slightly, and in front of them, the figures of the 6 members of the Dark River reappeared. The person who arranged the formation, there is this thin red line on their forehead. That is the mark left by Li Hanyi's sword energy piercing through. However, the sword energy was frosty cold, and the blood at the wound was instantly frozen. The person stared blankly at Ye Xuan, with a hint of shock in their eyes. The Dark River Mu family is originally specialized in the secret techniques of formation. Among the entire Mu family, there are very few people who can surpass him in terms of formation secrets. He never imagined that with his array skills, he would be exposed at a glance by a silent and unknown Wudang disciple. In Wudang, Zhang Zhenren did indeed pass down an invincible formation. It is called the Xuanwu 7-cut formation. 7 people working together can increase their strength by up to 64 times. But that's the attacking and attacking combination formation. The formation of Qimen Duanjia is not the same as that of Qimen Duanjia. And in the martial arts world, there has never been a Wudang disciple who is proficient in the art of Qimen Duanjia. With endless unwillingness, his body softened and collapsed. At this moment, the other unnamed assassins in the dark river all had a sudden feeling in their hearts. No wonder. Although the young man had no cultivation, Li Hanyi still had to carry him with him. Perhaps it is because of his high regard for his expertise in the art of extraordinary doors. The 5 of them looked at their comrades who had been killed by a sword and couldn't help but sigh in their hearts. I thought it would be much easier to carry out the mission with the master of the Mu family's secret techniques this time. Unexpectedly, the famous secret technique of the Mu family was actually broken with a sword. Fortunately, they also delayed some time to some extent. The highest cultivation of the Mu family leader for this mission should already be nearby. When Li Hanyi just drew his sword, there was no consideration at all. After Ye Xuan said that, she almost instinctively drew her sword. Just based on absolute trust in Ye Xuan. When the illusion dissipated and the formation shattered, she couldn't help but be slightly stunned. Taking a glance at Ye Xuan with a calm expression, Li Hanyi's mood was slightly complicated. Ye Xuan has learned too much, isn't he? The art of Qimen Duanjia has actually been explored. The key is that he seems to have extremely high attainments in every subject. Is it true that there are all-rounders in this world who cannot succeed? Why is there such a big difference between people? For a moment, Li Hanyi felt a bit discouraged. But soon, she regained her spirits. No problem. Although I am not an all-rounder, I can definitely be considered a genius in swordsmanship. As long as you excel in swordsmanship, don't be surpassed by Ye Xuan. Li Hanyi thought for a moment and realized that Wudang did not prioritize swordsmanship, so he regained his confidence. At this moment, a sound of clothes sweeping through the air sounded. The 5 people in the hidden river couldn't help but have their eyes lit up. Not far away, a figure dressed in black appeared in the sight of several people. It's sunny today. But in his hand, he held an oil paper umbrella. The man's gaze swept over Ye Xuan and then landed on Li Hanyi. He nodded slightly towards Li Hanyi and said with a smile, I'm at the Su family in the underground river, Xumuyu. P.S. The flowers are so bleak, are there any readers watching them? Please support me by watching, please.